Story 1, Tangled Paths Chapter 1, Ordinary Life. Alexei and Sveta have been married for almost 10 years. They have 2 children and a stable life that many would envy. Alexei was involved in business in the IT sector, and Sveta worked as a school teacher. Although they always knew how to find a common language, their relationship has become cool in recent years. Work and children took up most of their time, and they began to forget about the importance of paying attention to each other. Chapter 2, Unexpected Meetings. One day, Sveta met her old friend from university, Igor, at a reunion. They were close friends in their youth, and her heart sank when she saw him again. Igor was not indifferent either. Their reminders of old times rekindled feelings between them. They began a conversation that smoothly turned into deep philosophical reflections on life and love. Sveta felt her life become brighter and more intense. With each new conversation with Igor, it became difficult for her to ignore the feelings that began to surface again. Chapter 3, Forbidden Fruit. Igor began inviting Sveta for coffee more often, and she could not resist. Each meeting became more and more dangerous, and soon they shared their first kiss. Sveta was overcome with a mixture of joy and guilt. She understood that it was wrong, but the feeling of freedom and happiness that she experienced next to Igor clouded her mind. Alexei began to notice changes in his wife's behavior. She became more open-minded, often smiled and went on long walks. He did not know what was happening, but his intuition told him that something was wrong. Chapter 4, Double Bottom. With each passing day, Sveta sank deeper into her relationship with Igor. She tried to mend her relationship with Alexei, but every time she looked at him, her heart was torn apart by guilt. The internal conflict had reached its peak, and Sveta felt like she was standing on the edge of an abyss. When Alexei finally asked about what was going on, Sveta couldn't hold back and confessed everything. It was a shock for Alexei. Both parties experienced a painful discovery, but at the same time began to realize how important trust and openness are in love. Chapter 5, The Path to Healing. The painful discovery was the beginning of their long road to recovery. They turned to a family psychologist to sort out their feelings. Each of them had to face their own truth and accept the consequences of their decisions. Sveta realized that her love for Igor was not genuine, but in fact, it was just an attempt to fill the void in her life. The process of forgiveness was not quick. They began to relearn each other. Both parties took many steps to restore trust. Alexei began to spend more time with the children and was ready to compromise in order to save his family. Chapter 6, Rebirth. A year after the difficult trials, they began to feel their feelings finding their place again. Sveta and Alexei began to travel together, go on dates and discuss their dreams. What once seemed like a breakup now became a solid foundation for their love. Over time, they realized that true love can survive even the most difficult trials. They often reminded each other how important it is to appreciate every moment of life together. Every evening, when they sat at the table and discussed their days, they knew that the lingering shadows of the past had finally dissipated. Story 2, Changes of Fate. Chapter 1, Routine Life. Katia and Pasha had been married for several years. They had a cozy apartment and a child, but routine had set in. Both worked, and after work they had to do household chores and take care of the baby. They increasingly began to distance themselves from each other, although Katia loved her husband very much. But she lacked emotions, passion, that same thrill that was at the beginning of their relationship. Chapter 2, An interesting appearance. At one of the exhibitions, where Katia came with a friend, she unexpectedly met Sergei, her old friend, who had once studied with her at the institute. He became a successful designer, and the warm meeting revived her memories of that time. Sergei was charismatic, self-confident, and this immediately attracted Katia's attention. Since then, she began to receive messages from him on social networks, and they began to talk not only about work, but also about their hobbies. They mostly discussed style, art, and her old dreams. Chapter 3, Complicated Feelings. Soon, her communication with Sergei became promising, and she began to meet him more and more often. Each meeting enlivened her soul, and her life became brighter. She began to escape from reality, and soon romantic feelings arose between them. Guilt boiled inside her when she realized that she was deceiving Pasha in this way. With each new meeting, it became increasingly difficult for her to remain in the shadow of her secret. Her heart wavered between two men, the one with whom she was building a family, and the one who was returning the lost pulse of life to her. Chapter 4. Signs. Pasha noticed changes in his wife's mood. She became more absent-minded, smiled at him less often, and his heart sank with apprehension. He did not know that something was wrong, but he felt inattention. He tried to support her, offering to spend time together, but she brushed it off, citing fatigue. Mistakes were brewing, and the real catastrophe was not long in coming. In parallel with their relaxation, Sergei was increasingly overcome by excitement and overwhelming anticipation. He did not want to just be friends, he wanted her. Chapter 5. Exposure. One day, when Pasha ran into the apartment without warning, he saw Katya in the kitchen, where there was a lot of emotion and passion on the phone with Sergei. She did not notice him, and their conversation revealed the truth. Pasha froze in shock and wanted to release all the hell that he had been fighting internally for so long. When Katya realized that her secret was revealed, she almost fainted. All her dreams were shattered, and this reality swallowed her up instantly. She stood in shock until Pasha, with an empty and upset look, came out of the kitchen. Chapter 6. Full recovery. They both realized that further steps should be balanced, and instead of abrupt actions, they decided to turn to a family psychotherapist. It became a test, but with each session they began to understand the best sides of their and each other's lives. They often recalled the best moments and what real support and trust in a relationship are. After a few months, they began to support each other and return love, while realizing the mistakes that led them to this moment. Chapter 7. The road back. Each of them realized that trust and openness in a relationship are the key to family happiness. Tanya found herself again, began to actively engage in new hobbies, and sometimes look for research work. Pasha, also drawing new understanding from life, began to think and support it. A year later, they restored their connection and made plans for the future. Each understood what values are important and how they should work on their relationship so as not to repeat old mistakes. Epilogue. New horizons. After a few years, they became not only spouses, but also best friends. Each of them continued to work on themselves, although the pain and respect they experienced remained as important lessons. The atmosphere of love reigned in their home again, and every evening they gathered together and looked for time for each other, to create a new world and a new family together.